Hello, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend and stayed warm during our little snowstorm there. Okay, so this week we're looking at Chapter 9, Customer Service via Technology. And as usual, I will start with a quote. This is written by Shep Hyken. He's a customer service and experience expert. Excuse me, I'll actually post a video of him, of an experience that he had with a taxi driver. I believe it was in Dallas. And it's just a great story and demonstrates the importance of customer service, and sometimes that you can't judge a book by its cover. So while this quote, sorry, the greatest technology in the world hasn't replaced the ultimate relationship building tool between a customer and a business, the human touch. So while I think we can all agree that technology has really made our lives a lot more convenient, I believe that it hasn't and never ever will be able to replace actual face-to-face interactions. While, virtually you can, in some cases you can try and read emotions online or through cameras. I think it's really hard to really read a person. It's hard to see full body language and also to feel their energy. And I think that's something that organizations need to be aware of, that there is that human interaction does still matter. And I think there are some, individuals that still really like that face-to-face interaction. So, when you look at COVID, again, granted that technology played a huge role and enabled us to get through COVID. I mean, can you imagine having COVID without the technology we had? No FaceTime, no virtual meetings. We wouldn't be able to work from home, no online purchasing or shopping pickup. A lot of businesses wouldn't have been able to continue working if they didn't have the technology in place. And as it was, a lot of organizations really did have to change and adjust on a dime. Some restaurants had to adjust to online ordering and delivery. Companies that didn't offer e-commerce, they had to implement that very quickly. And some companies were in a better situation than others. I personally work at Canada Life, and Canada Life was able to deploy its workforce fairly seamlessly. I remember the date, March. It was Friday, March 13th, 2020, and I went home with my computer and have been working at home pretty much ever since. But they did have that technology in place, and Teams was already set up, so they were quite fortunate. But I think as me personally, it wasn't until COVID that I also realized what a people person I am and how I do rely on that interaction. And I think, some organizations need to be aware of that. For some people like it, some don't. And I'm not talking about just their workforce either. I'm talking about their customers as well. But looking at it from an organizational standpoint, I think for some companies that now has become a bit of a challenge, this entire virtual workforce. I think, opportunities potentially are being missed. You don't have that banter that you have in the meetings beforehand that we would have around boardroom tables. We don't bump into people in hallways anymore and have ideas, and that's how invention can be sparked, is by sharing and generating those ideas. So I do believe that there still is a place for that face-to-face interaction, and I think I think things are turning around now post-COVID, and people do enjoy being out there, and they do want to explore the world again and see people and be in touch. So technology has come a long way, as we know, and I think that what's been great about technology, the introduction of technology has allowed us to capture events and history more accurately. But it's also, on the flip side, it's also allows for greater and faster interaction, which has its pros and cons, obviously. As a society, we now need to be aware that any event can be captured immediately. And once it's out there on the internet, it really is there forever. I don't know if any of you recognize, I'm sure you do recognize some of these pieces of technology. I think in the old days, communication was a lot slower because technology was a lot slower. Now technology is so much more advanced that things are happening a lot quicker. And there is an expectation from customers that things do happen a lot quicker. So, what is the role of technology in customer service? I mean, arguably, it makes customer service have to be faster and more accurate. For example, payments and refunds are made more easily. Delivery of products. I mean, Amazon. I'm actually just waiting for an Amazon delivery now today that I've just placed yesterday. Live chats help with client interactions. That's something I really like is live chats. But whereas my husband, he prefers the phone still. With websites, interactions now take place 24/7. So, e-commerce allows things to be purchased, at 3 o'clock in the morning. But on the flip side, too, complaints, queries, and information can be sent any time of day, even during regular closing hours. So, businesses really need to be aware of that interactions, good and bad, are happening, or word of mouth, I should say, good or bad, at any time of the day. In terms of agreements, for example, in the old days when there were two, opposing parties, it was a he said, she said kind of scenario. So everyone thinks they're right. And, the idea of the customer always being right to a degree no longer exists because there are now video cameras that can be installed. And I think there can be a lot more proof because of technology of what's gone on. Customer relationship management has greatly benefited from technology. It's covered in next week's chapter, but it allows us to stay on top of our customers, stay informed, be proactive in terms of how to engage with them and what to deliver. Technology really also caters to the low-touch customers. So those are customers who don't necessarily want to have that interaction. In some cases, a banking industry actually is a great case. They have from low to high touch customers. So low touch is, using the ATM, doing online banking, but high touch is where customers, and in some cases, certain demographics may prefer to have that sort of interaction. I won't go on. There's, obviously review the book, but I did pull some data just to kind of put things in perspective for you a little bit in terms of numbers. So, given Canada's population of 37.9 million people, 98% of us have connection via mobile, and 94% of us are internet users, and 85% are active social media users. So, people are really able to read things, and the word of mouth is greater because of social media. So, good word of mouth or bad word of mouth. And e-commerce, as I mentioned, that's something that's even prior to COVID, e-commerce was growing, but now it's just become such a big part of organizations, and people just expect to have that as another avenue or a way of purchasing goods and products. And so I just took at one area, and looking at the food delivery numbers, you can see that obviously because of COVID, the growth has been quite drastic in terms of 25%. So part of, as an organization, even though it may be second nature to some people, for some demographics, for some individuals, they're not as comfortable using technology, and for good reason too. There are a lot of organizations have had data breaches and where personal information has been obtained. I don't know if any of you recently have purchased from Chapters or Indigo. They just recently got hacked, and I know this because I did just purchase a book, and that's how I found out. I kept getting emails of apologies and explaining what had happened. So as an organization, you need to reassure people that there is some level, that there is high levels of security, that there's a digital certificate, that the website is secure, and to, really reassure individuals that their data is safe. So before I leave you, I kind of challenge you to think of a few things about technology. And what would your student life be like without technology? What would the classroom look like? What would homeworks and assignments look like? What would the hallway of a traditional college look like if there was no technology, which was in my day? You couldn't do research online, didn't have Grammarly to check your spelling or your work. We had to go to the library. We had to write essays and assignments by hand. We had to proofread and hand things in manually. Physically, we had to go in and so things are very, very different. Even the hallways now, a lot of the times people are looking at their phones. So yeah, think about that a little bit, and also think about what do you think the future will look like for customer service? Biometrics, artificial intelligence, biometrics, e.g., face and voice recognition is becoming big. Intent predictions, emotion analytics. We know there are artificial intelligent police robots out there, Amazon delivery robots, cashierless grocery stores. So yeah, think a little bit about where you see customer service going down with technology, and think about, with the introduction of AI, what do organizations need to think about, and how? Because that adds a completely different element. It's almost a cool element. And so how are organizations going to deal with that, and make sure they're still looking out for their customers? Okay, for next week, homework, video reflection 9 is due on Sunday, and then if you can read chapter 10, I'll post a video of that next week. Goodbye, have a great week and weekend. Thank you.